you kind of start thinking to yourself, well, why don't I try some of this? Why not? Why not? And that's kind of how I approached it. And the more that I tried, the more I'm like, okay, I feel better about myself. I feel like I'm a better parent, I'm a better wife. All of those things felt better because I was making these small changes in how I did my daily routine. But I am a big believer in that we don't need to change who we are. We need to change the way we see ourselves.
Welcome to Onward Live, a live stream focused on encouraging you to create a life you love living now. Let's go beyond success to significance. Being clear on our why is crucial. It requires doing the inner work, finding ourselves, getting to know ourselves, embracing our inner child, shedding social conditioning, and letting go of perfect. We know obstacles make us stronger. We can dream big and take action. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. I invite you to tune in every week and engage with me and my inspiring guests. Invite your friends. Let's make time for what matters most in our lives. Let's move onward together. Today, I am interviewing Simone Knego, and she's climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. She has 6 children. There's so many different things that we're going to be able to talk about tonight. I really want to ask her, why would anyone want to climb such a tall mountain? It seems really challenging. So I'm just excited to bring her on and to hear the answers to her questions and what it's been like to raise 6 children. I think she said 3 of them were adopted from different countries like Ethiopia and South Korea. And I always love learning from my guests. So let's bring in Simone. I'm going to change this graphic here. And Simone, welcome. Oh, I'm going to switch us. There we go.
Maybe I want to be Emily today. That's okay. Thanks so much for having me here today.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. I love the title that you selected for this episode, The Extraordinary UnOrdinary You, and you've even written a book about that. So can you share a little bit about your life and how you came to writing this book?
I'll start out with that. I wasn't a writer. I actually went to school for accounting. I have a bachelor's and master's in accounting. I'm a CPA by education. And for many years, I didn't love what I did. I didn't find my purpose. I didn't feel passionate about, my work, my life. And that was a big part of all of the things I've done in my life, is trying to figure out my purpose. And I'm a big fan of, it's okay to change your mind. That, we sometimes, especially for our kids, we look at like how young you have to be, and you decide like by 18, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Right. I know that's really challenging on anybody. And I was at an event the other day where we were all in a line, and she was asking people to step forward if a statement resonated with them. And one of the statements was, I am in a career that has nothing to do with my bachelor's degree. And everyone stepped forward.
It's pretty amazing. And, it just, when I look at my kids, I say the same thing, like, yeah, trust me, I want you to go through the process, but I also want you to realize that it's not forever. Like, you need to figure out what you love, figure out the life that you want to lead, figure out the life that you love, because I think it's so important that we all, there's barriers, right? There's things that we feel like we have to do every day to kind of pay the bills and everything, but figuring out what you really love doing and what you're passionate about, I think, is so important.
Yeah, but you went and got a bachelor's and a master's or your CPA in accounting right before you realized, or was it before you admitted to yourself?
Well, I'll start with that. I was planning on going to medical school. Both my parents are physicians, and my sister's a physician, and I took organic chemistry and I failed it. And I took it again and I got a D. And I was like, okay, maybe medical school is not for me. And that's kind of when I went into accounting, because my dad's like, you're really good at math. Why not accounting? Okay, sure. I did accounting, and accounting is a great job for all you accountants out there. It is a great job.
Yes.
It just wasn't for me. And again, I've tried many things over my life. So it wasn't just accounting. I went back to school to be a teacher. That I truly loved. The problem is I have 6 children. So to pay the babysitter to watch the 6 children back then was more than what I was making. And my husband's like, "Can we rethink the career?" Okay. So then I went into medical sales, which again, I really loved. I loved going and because I love talking to people, learning about their lives. Yeah, and then I flipped houses but what I finally realized is what I love is storytelling, and that's kind of what pushed me to public speaking and to writing a book. And that's where I am now, and I truly love what I do.
How'd you find out that that's what you loved?
Volunteer work. I had no idea. My husband's like, "I can't think of anything worse, not volunteer work, but public speaking." Because for him, standing on a stage is completely overwhelming. And for me, I started doing it through volunteer work. And I was like, wait, I have a story people want to hear, people want to listen, and I'm impacting their lives. I had no idea. I think so many of us go through our lives with this self doubt. I would say
Mhm.
majority of us that we
Yes.
don't realize what we're capable of. We also don't realize what we want because we're not willing to take a risk because we're so afraid of failing. And that was kind of like the big factor for me. So the first few times I got on stage, I was like, do they really want to hear what I have to say? And then when people would come up to me and say, wow, you have the most amazing stories. And I'm looking around like, are you talking to me?
Yeah.
And I just didn't realize I think I was so down on myself that I didn't know that my stories could impact other people's lives. And
I
everybody has a story. So everybody's story can impact other people's lives.
Yeah, I wish we didn't let our minds hold us back. I mean, even me, I've been doing this podcast. I'm almost at 200 episodes for about 3 years, and sometimes I make a post, and there's not as many likes, and so I wonder, well, is what I'm doing even worth it? And then I get a message from like somebody that I didn't even know watched the show. This Emily, I listened to this guest, and I want to have her speak to my group, and I listened to this guest, or this your story really touched me. So you just never know who you can touch
Yeah.
by telling your story.
It's about that one person. It's about
Yeah.
changing one person's mind. It's about impacting one person in a way that they feel good about themselves and they're willing to try something different or, move out of something that they don't love. It to me that truly is what it's all about. And I read something the other day when we're because again, we're always so focused on social media, which it's a very hard relationship, right? Like you feel that because of the work that we're in, we have to be on social media. But it's the negative part too of that, really, do I want everything like I'm putting too much value into it.
Mhm.
And but I saw someone post the other day, doesn't matter how many likes you're getting on something, people are still seeing it. And I had someone say the other day, "Oh, I read everything you post." And I'm
Right.
thinking, "But you never mark anything."
How do I know you do?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the thing, and I realized for me too, every comment that I read on something, I don't necessarily like it or respond to it, but I do read it, so it was kind of a learning lesson for me is that stop focusing on the likes, stop focusing on that stuff, just put your message out there, and if it impacts that one person, it's worth doing.
Right, right. Well, I can see, we've had 4, 5, 6, some people watching, but no one's commented in the chat. It doesn't mean that they're not learning something or that they don't have a question or whatever. I mean, you just can't worry about that. So
Absolutely.
I completely agree with you. So what kind of stories do you like to tell?
I like to tell real life stories because I like to tell like things that have happened to me or my family, something I've seen. Because again, I think that when it's real, when it's authentic, people can relate to it. They're like, oh, wait, something similar happened to me. I didn't want to talk about it, but wow, she's talking about it. Maybe I should talk about it. And again, that's something that's really important to me.
So what's your favorite story to tell?
So I have a ridiculous story about, and it actually is in my book. I was I was out of the country. And while I was out of the country, and this is not the funny part of the story, this is the scary part of the story. My son was away at summer camp and he got bit by a poisonous snake. And my husband calls me and he says, I don't know much. I'm getting on a plane to fly to the camp and I'll message you once I get there and call the camp to find out more information. And I'm thinking, that was probably the worst phone call of my life. And so I call the camp and the camp is like, well, we don't think it was a poisonous snake. We're just taking every precaution. So we have him in an ambulance. And then 15 minutes later, the woman calls me back and says, well, we've now put him in air flight and he's in a
Oh my
helicopter on the
gosh.
way to Emory Children's. And I was like, okay, this is not the first conversation. Like, I'm like, I'm out of my mind. He did fine. Yes, he was bit by a poisonous snake. He had to have multiple vials of anti-venom and he spent 3 days in the ICU. My husband was there. He did great. I could not get home from where I was. There were no flights that I could get on. And so when we got home, he was fine. But when we got home, I had to take him to therapy because his arm was locked into place from the swelling. So we get into the minivan to go to therapy. And I look back at him and I'm like, are you buckled? He's like, it's hard. I have one arm. I'm like, okay, get buckled. And as I'm looking at him, I was like, why is there popcorn all over the car? Like, I know it's the moving trash can with 6 kids. Like, you never
Yeah.
know what you're going to find in there. And I look back again and I'm like, that is not popcorn. I was like, no, get out of the car. Get out of the car. And he's like, what? I'm like, get out of the car. And so we both get out and I'm looking in there. No, it is not popcorn. It is the foam from the inside of the seats. A rat or
Oh my
16 or
gosh.
25 had made its way in through, and I hadn't driven the car in 2 weeks because I was out of the country, through the engine block and had a feast, right? Because it's the moving trash can and there's crumbs in
Oh my
every nook
gosh.
and cranny. So literally, I think the rat chewed on basically every seat in the car. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. I called the insurance company and they're like, well, the engine works, right? You can drive it in. And I was like, that would be a no, because if the rat jumps on my head, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have a freak out and have an accident and it's gonna be your fault. So they towed it, and guess what happened? They had to total the car because the seat damage was so bad that it was better for them to total the car than to actually fix the seats. So I like telling that story because a lot of my friends are like, "Oh, you shouldn't tell anybody that. That's kind of embarrassing." I was like, "No, it's real life. Like,
Someone
we
else has a
have."
story similar or whatever. That's life,
Right.
right.
Yeah, we have real life, right? Like,
Yeah.
my car is not a clean thing. On these days it's a little bit better because I'm a 50% empty nester, but back then it was not the prettiest sight. And that day it was a really ugly sight. And then
Well, to
when
that
I took
cat, it was a really pretty sight.
Oh, yeah. So, and then I got a new car after that. So I was okay with that. But you know
Yeah.
what? Things happen every day, and that was kind of a little bit traumatic, and but it happened and I'm okay talking about it because people are like, "Oh wait, my car is messy as well." And I haven't had the rats, but I
It
have
was
had people say to me, "I've had rat issues as well." I'm like, okay. So here we go."
it might make someone clean up their car
Yeah,
'cause
it might. They'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I never want that to happen to me." So, yeah.
So you said when you in what you submitted that you've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and I wanna know, like, what was that like? How did you train? How high is it? All of it.
Yeah, yeah, 7 years ago. Right now, so I got in really good shape for it. Right now I'm in COVID shape. I'll be the first to say, "Okay, I gotta get back in the gym."
COVID shape, that's a new
Yeah.
term.
Yes, I'm in COVID shape. So, it was a friend of ours had climbed it the year before, and he actually reached out to my husband and said, "Do you know, are you interested in climbing?" They're putting a team together again. We climbed it with the Livestrong Foundation, and he basically, the way I tell the story is, 1, 2, 3. No, thank you. Call Simone. And they did. They called me and I said, you know what? I think I want to do this. And there were many reasons that I decided to do it. But the biggest thing was, I think for so long, I doubted myself. And this was a moment where I said, you know what? I am going to put in the work. I'm setting the goal. I'm putting in the work. And I really want to make this an accomplishment. And even if I didn't make it to the top, the fact that I tried, I was I was okay with that.
Yeah.
So I worked out really hard. I was in the gym every day. I wore this ridiculous mask, which nowadays would be very stylish. It
Mhm.
was an elevation training mask. It had a gorilla face on it, and it had these valves that you could adjust. So it made you, it increased lung capacity. So it doesn't affect the oxygen level, but you had to breathe really hard to pull the air in. And it worked really well. By the end of my training, I could hold my breath for over a minute underwater, which I was
Whoa.
never able to do that. Yeah, so that really worked, and it was truly an amazing experience. I went with There were 16 of us. I didn't know anybody, and I had 6 kids at the time,
I was gonna
so
ask, did you have was it before or after kids?
yeah, no, I
Okay.
had all 6 kids, and, they were my biggest cheering squad for it, and, I did it. I went so I was paired up with a woman from that is she's a breast cancer survivor. She's truly amazing, and we were tent mates, so the first night we were in a hotel getting ready to go, and then we were in a tent together for the rest of the time, and it was hard, right? It was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, but there wasn't a moment where I said, "I can't do this." There was moments that I said, "This is really hard," because I really think it's important that how we talk to ourselves, how we talk about ourselves, our words really matter.
Mhm.
And saying I can't do this was not going to be part of my vocabulary. And 5 days up, 2 days down, our entire team made it to the summit, and yes, it was hard to breathe at the top, and I was still acting like a mom at the top when I saw people with blue lips. I'm like, "I think we need to start going back down." But, our entire team made it, and it was such an emotional experience because, climbing with the Livestrong Foundation, we had several people who were still are cancer survivors or climbing in honor of friends and family that either had passed or were fighting and it just made it that much more of an emotional experience and truly life changing for me because when I got to that summit, I said to myself that I'm not going to limit myself anymore. Like, and that was a big transformation for me 7 years ago. I mean, I'm turning 50 next week. So 7 years ago, really, I really changed my mindset because I said that you set the goal, you put in the work, and you believe in yourself. And
Yeah,
that's what I did.
yeah. I was gonna ask what you learned about yourself. That was perfect.
Oh,
So how high up is it?
19,371 feet. I live at sea level.
Yeah, you're in Florida,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah. So I was like, I didn't know how to use the sleeping bag on the first night, and I'm not kidding. I was like, "Oh, a mummy bag. I don't know how to use this." And I was freezing the first night, and my tent mate as well. This was our first experience doing something like this. Yes, I've gone camping, but
Right,
camping in
right.
Florida is a bit different. And it was pretty humorous. And the next morning, what did we do? We asked for help. And that was another moment for me of that it's okay to ask for help. Like we're all human. That there
Definitely.
is no shame in that. This is how
Totally.
we learn.
Yeah.
And guess what? The next night I was nice and warm.
And, doing that taught your kids to follow your dreams, go for what you can achieve what you put your mind to. It taught them so many things too. Watch.
Yeah, completely. And again, my so I actually have a keynote speech where I talk about the Kilimanjaro piece and my and I'm taking it as a compliment for my daughter who's 19, but she's like, it's really relatable because you're not the super athlete. I was like, thank you so much. I think that's a
That is
compliment. I'm gonna
it is
take it
a
like that.
compliment.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a compliment. Yeah. Good for her. Kenny loved the story about your tasty car.
I think it was very tasty. Again, I had to total it for its taste.
And Ingor says, "There's nothing perfect about life, Simone. Thanks for sharing that story with a few little mice or rats or whatever they are in her comment." And then she also said, "Yes, we have to be careful what we say to ourselves. We sure do. I mean, words have energy, right?"
Yeah. It's,
Mhm.
when another story about how important our words are is when my daughter who's 19, she was a preteen at the time. I was getting ready for an event. So this was pre Kilimanjaro and I was getting ready for an event and unhappy about myself, not fitting in my clothes, really frustrated with myself. And I was muttering under my breath, like, can't believe you did this again. How did you gain weight? Like, going off on myself. And my daughter walks up to me and she said, "First of all, you're beautiful. Second of all, you need to stop. You are giving me a complex. How can you expect me to love my body when you don't even like your own?" And I was like, "Ooh." And that was a moment where I was like, "Okay, I need to rethink how I'm doing things." Like, yeah, why am I being so hard on myself? Like this is who I am. I need to own who I
Right.
am. Great. Like and so that was another moment in time that I
If
was
we didn't have a body, we wouldn't be here,
right.
like, in this
Yeah.
way. So
And
let's appreciate
everybody has a different body. Like
yeah,
we can't compare ourselves to others. Like looking at someone else and saying, "I wish I had that body." No, that person doesn't even know you're comparing yourselves to them, like yeah.
yeah,
So I have gotten over that, and trust me, I want to be, fit. Right
right,
now I'm COVID fit, right? So I got to work on that.
right.
But I'm not looking at anybody else saying, I wish I could look like them, or I want to be like them." No, I'm me. I'm unique. So are all of you.
Yes. Shannon asks, can anyone join the foundation to take that trip? Or, are there other ways that you can go take a trip? I'll go with you, Shannon.
Yeah.
We'll go hike
So
together.
I don't think Livestrong is doing it. Well, I know they haven't been doing it for a while now, especially with COVID. I don't know if they're going to be doing it anymore, but there are plenty of ways there's plenty of organizations that you can climb Kilimanjaro with. And there's plenty of organizations for me, like when you give me a cause and a challenge together, that to me, it's like, okay, that's even more motivating. If I just say, I'm going to go run a race, I'm kind of like, well, do I want to sleep in today? But if I'm doing it for something else, if I'm raising money, for me, that's so much more impactful. So if you research online, you can definitely find organizations that you can raise money for while doing an adventure like that.
That'd be a great trip for you, Shannon. He said, okay, so this is in writing. Shannon is going to hike Mount Kilimanjaro with me. Right? Got it, Shannon?
That would be amazing. I can't wait to see the photos.
Yeah. So you've also got like 6 children, and I think you've got a picture of them behind you,
Yes,
right?
I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
So tell us about that. You adopted, I don't know, was it 2 from Ethiopia, 1 from Korea?
Yeah. Our son who just turned 18 yesterday is from Ethiopia. Our daughter that's 14 is from Ethiopia, and our son who is 15 is from South Korea. And it was f- when I was pregnant for the first time. So I got married at 21, and I had our first child at 24. And I was like, okay, I think I want one. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. And he was a really good baby. But then my husband was funny. And then once we had him, I was like, wait, no, I think I want more. And my husband's like, maybe I'm good with one. He wanted 6 from the beginning. Maybe I'm good with
Okay.
one. It's like, no, so yeah, we had 3 kids, and we always felt like there was something missing. And so we had lived in Texas. We had moved back to Florida because that's where we were both kind of from. I mean, I'm not originally from Florida. I have one child that's now originally from Florida, which, most people are not from Florida. But we we said, should we do it? Should we jump in? And we did. We said that there are so many amazing kids in the world just waiting for a family to love them, and we wanted to be that family. So we adopted Noah. So he was our first adoption. Our age order is out of order because he was a
Okay.
baby when he came home, and so he was 4 months old. He's now 15. And then our next adoption was Ari, who is from Ethiopia, and he was 4.5 years old. So he
Okay.
kind of jumped ahead in terms of the line in ages. And then when we were in Ethiopia, it was such an amazing experience, and meeting the children in the orphanage and just seeing how much love they had to give and how much love they needed, that literally the day we left the orphanage, we said, we're going to come back again. And, so there we are. So the next year we went back and we adopted our daughter, Millie, and 6 kids, 50% empty nester, 1 is off the payroll. He's got a job. He's doing amazing, and he's 25. And then the next 2 are in college, and then 3 still at home.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. And we were talking before. First off, I want to say Shannon says he's in. Okay, we got this in writing too. It's awesome.
There
He's in.
we go.
Yeah. So before this show, I was talking about how when you first signed up to be on my show, the theme was like facing adversity, moving forward, and discovering ourselves along the way. And I've since switched it to create a life you love living now. And we were talking about like I think, well, when you went overseas, I don't know if it was to Ethiopia or whatever, you're thinking, let me bring some stuff and let me help them out. And then you realized what?
I realized how happy people were. I think we have these ideas in our mind of what happiness means, and money is not happiness. Happiness is being in the moment, enjoying the life that you have. And we were in Ghana, and we we had gone on a medical mission, and my husband's a physician, and we collected all of these school supplies and soccer balls, which was amazing. I think we had 12 duffel bags of stuff that my son had collected at his school. So that in itself was truly amazing. But what we realized when we got there is that the kids were the adults too. They were happy. This is the life that they know. And we went to this field where the kids were playing soccer, and they were playing with trash bags that were bunched up into a ball. And guess what? They were happy. And it was a moment in time where I said to myself, you don't need to fix this. This is not something that, like, just enjoy the moment, because they are. Like, don't take away the bag of balls, and then give them something that they don't need. They love their life, and who am I to say, "Oh, well, you should be doing it this way." That's not life. Like, we need to enjoy the life that we have and not try to change it because we think it should be something different. We should change it because it's what we want.
I love that. And so many times we look at outside circumstances to make us happy when we can really be joyful inside. I know I've done that in the past. And I told you before we went live that yesterday I interviewed Alex from
Mhm.
Ukraine. And we it's like, why would you be interviewing someone from Ukraine about living a life, creating a life you love living? I mean, we were talking a lot about what was going on in Ukraine. However, what was really touching to me is when there was a video that he posted on his Twitter of him with his wife, and they were singing happy birthday on March 10th to their 1 month old son. And I just saw joy in his expression and his face. He was smiling. He's so happy to have this baby Arthur. And that really hit home to me. Like, we don't we don't have to go on vacation or leave, this place or that place or buy this new purse or buy this thing to be happy. It's really within you already if you can find it. You can.
Yeah, and I think we have to find it within us in order to see the world in the way that it is, right? Like, I think that our looking at ourselves and believing in ourselves and being happy in our lives, finding joy in our lives, you have to do that first. You have to, before you can love other people, you have to love yourself. So, same kind of thing. You have to find joy within yourself so you can see the joy within other people. And that
Yeah.
was something I think I was missing for a bit. Was I didn't see that I had joy within myself. So I looked at other people saying, "Well, how can they be happy like this?" That's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that story. Why did you entitle your book The Extraordinary Unordinary You? And there's more to it. And can you also tell us, this is how you order the book, follow your own path, discover your own journey. Can you tell us little bit about why you wrote that book and some of the what it's about?
Yeah, talking about how, you know, it's okay to change your mind and really figuring out your purpose, figuring out your passion. And, it took me a while to get there. So I found it through volunteer work. And it was through volunteer work that I got to start sharing some of my stories. And I really realized what I was passionate about was storytelling. If I can change one person's mind, then I'm feeling really good about my life. And so really the title is about realizing that we always say, I used to say, I'm just an ordinary girl. I'm just Rob's wife. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just a substitute teacher. Whatever the just is, justifying what I was doing with my life. And it took me a long time to realize, wait, we are all unique. That's what makes the world a really special place, right? That we all are different. There's not one of us that's exactly the same. And realizing that we are all unordinary, all extraordinary. We all have extraordinary pieces about us, and really focusing on that instead of trying to be something that we're not, trying to be somebody else. I mean, there's that great quote, well, they're already taken, right? So,
Well, saying
um,
that and believing it are 2 different things. So how did you come to believe it?
yeah, a long process. There's no light switch, right?
Darn.
Yeah, I know. I was hoping someone would install one in my house, but it didn't happen. So it really was the process of mindfulness, changing my mindset, positive affirmations, evening gratitudes. And when I look in the mirror, my kids are like, "Oh my gosh, she's talking to herself again." Yes, I
Mm,
am. I am because I think it's important that we every morning I have something that I say to myself to start my day off on a positive note. And no, life is not unicorns and rainbows, and I get that. But I think we have to think about like the difference that we're making in our corner of the world. It's not like, oh, let me change the entire world today. No, that's not how it works. But thinking how we can lead with compassion, kindness, empathy. You have a choice in everything you do every day with most things. And so I really think about that when I'm getting frustrated about something. I'm like, why am I getting frustrated about this? This, if I took a step back and said, wait, see the value in the conversation that you're having instead of being irritated by it, you'll learn something from it. And that was a really important thing for me, is to take that step and say, okay, yes, every day I'm going to have to say to myself, hey, you can move forward with this. And it has truly changed my life, and it has changed my family as well, because they're able to call me out on stuff when I'm having one of those moments. Like, for example, I was with my daughter at the Starbucks drive-through and someone cut in front of me in line, and I pretty much lost it in the Starbucks drive-through. And she was like, uh, "Mom, hello. I
yeah.
think you might have forgotten a few things about, patience and kindness and understanding. Remember, practice what you preach." And sure enough, we get up to the window to pay, and the person who had cut in front of us in line had paid for our drinks. And so my daughter was like, can we pay for the car behind us? And then we had a whole conversation about how long that would last. And it was a moment in time where I'm like, okay, that was a really good thing that my kids can now call me out, because they're like,
Yeah.
this is the stuff you talk about all the time. Like, you gotta, you know, hold it together, mom.
Well, what an ama so you taught you demonstrated some things for your child. You demonstrated that you're not perfect and that you're
Mm,
okay with that and that you can apologize and that you're going to mess up and then you can, in one of the coaching programs I coach on, it's like you were hijacked by your saboteur. You were judging that
yeah,
person like thinking all these negative thoughts and then you switched. Your daughter helped you switch to curiosity, compassion, maybe thinking about, well, maybe that person's in a rush and maybe they were and that's why they paid. They knew that, it
yeah.
probably was not polite to cut, but they just had to because whatever. So many things that you taught your daughter. Now, did you all of a sudden just switch to having this attitude about life and about how words have energy and about journaling and all these things, or did you read books or work with a coach? I mean,
I didn't work with a coach. It was a few things. It was, being at one of the things was I was at this women's empowerment luncheon, and I was listening to these amazing speakers, and they truly were amazing, but all I could think was, well, that will never be me. And that was kind of a light switch moment where I said, and it's not supposed to be. And that kind of brought me into the, okay, what can I do differently so that I'm not going to get back into that rut of, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not this, or, so that was kind of a life-changing moment where I stopped. I don't want to say I stopped, but I started looking at things differently. And then I
oh,
started reading a lot about mindset and saying, wait, it's not hoodoo voodoo. It actually really works, as do positive affirmations. There's actually science behind it, and how it, you know, there's a lot. So if you start reading about stuff, you kind of start thinking to yourself, well, why don't I try some of this? Why not? Why not? And that's kind of how I approached it. And the more that I tried, the more I'm like, okay, I feel better about myself. I feel like I'm a better parent, I'm a better wife. All of those things felt better because I was making these small changes in how I did my daily routine. But I am a big believer in that we don't need to change who we are. We need to change the
Yeah.
way we see ourselves. And that
Yeah.
that kind of was a moment too where I said, okay, how do I change the way I see myself? And that was through, that whole mindset piece where, I talk to myself and I do things differently. And
How'd you have time to read? You have 6 kids and your husband's a physician.
um,
I mean,
I
how do
leave
you have time?
I leave books around the house. I'm constantly doing something. And like tonight, I was trying to cook dinner before I got on here, and I was like, okay, remind me that I am not great at multitasking. I'm like burning the steaks, and my daughter's like, oh no, they're delicious. Don't worry. It's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really good at sitting still, and I like to be. So I'll have a book in the car. I have a book by my bed. I have, like, so by my computer. So if I'm waiting for a call to start, like I'll read a few pages and then think,
Mhm.
oh, wait, that really helps me. So that's kind of how I do what works for me. And that's what people should realize. They need to do what works for them.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
about doing what everybody else is doing. It's about doing what works for you.
Yeah, definitely. Out of all those books, besides The Extraordinary Unordinary You, what book stands out as one that
Ooh.
helped you? Can you think of one?
There's a book that I really loved, and it's because of my connection with Ethiopia. It's There Is No Me Without You, and it's about a woman whose family had passed away, and she decided to take in AIDS orphans, and because there was no one that would take them, and she created this whole community, and then she started these private adoptions where these children could find a family, and it was such an impactful story. Of course, I see a lot of my children in in those stories, but looking at her where she had lost everything, and she turned it into something amazing and really helped, I would say, the world, and how she changed things, and that to me was so impactful.
Yeah, that sounds inspiring. I mean, what challenges did you face in having children that have different skin color? I'm just gonna ask that
Yeah,
because I know
yeah,
that's
ask away.
pretty, that's a topic now that's kind of, people are talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and, race, and you've got a multiracial family.
I think first thing is understanding that we can't be colorblind. I know, like when I was growing up, that was like the catchphrase. Oh, we're colorblind. Well, being colorblind is not a statement of that you're inclusive. It just means you don't want to have that difficult conversation. Really understanding that we need to appreciate everyone for their color, for their background, and really looking at things differently. Yeah, there's all my kids. But yeah, I mean, of course there are challenges. Like, trust me, there's days where I think like, okay, these kids are growing up in a white family. This is how they're now seeing the world. But we make sure that we have discussions on a regular basis of when we see something, we say something. There is no keeping quiet when there's something that happens. And there's plenty of people that have had most of the comments have been more just out of curiosity than
Mhm.
anything else. Like, how can you be their mom? Like, or I remember one time the younger two were on the playground, and a kid came up to them and said, how can you be brother and sister?
Yeah,
And
definitely kids are gonna ask that.
oh yeah. And my daughter's like, we're adopted, duh.
Yeah.
So they, we're very open and honest with our conversations. We make sure that, our house is filled with, pictures of people that look like them as well. It's not, we don't have we do our best, right? Like that's what we do as humans. We do our best. And for me, it's really important that we kind of show them the world and that they see that they're not the only ones. I mean, we live in Sarasota, which isn't necessarily the most diverse place,
Yeah.
but again, we do the best that we can, and our kids are happy. They're amazing. They're honestly amazing kids. I mean, our son Ari just turned 18 yesterday. He's just such a good human, and that's kind of, I think, for me as a parent, the most important thing is raising good humans.
Yeah. Gracie says, "I like the family picture on the wall." Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank
I'm glad I
you.
switched to this view because we can
Yeah,
see
I'm
it.
like blocking a
Yeah.
little bit, but yeah. Yeah, that was right before COVID. That was December 2020. No, December 2019. Hello. See, I lost a couple of years there.
So point
December
them out. Who's
2019.
in the picture?
Okay, so That's Ari.
Uh-huh.
So he's from Ethiopia. He's now 18. That's Noah. He is from South Korea. He's now 15. That's Millie. She's from Ethiopia and she's 14. Olivia, she looks like me. She's 19.
I was gonna say that looked like you, so I was trying to
Yes.
figure out who's who. Okay.
Yes. That's Olivia. She's 19. Jacob's 25 and Emma is 22. So, yep.
Beautiful.
That's my group. And again, they're amazing kids. And the more we go along in our journey, I'm like, ooh, I really won the jackpot with all of them because trust me, we have our issues. Like
Yeah.
we have we have our struggles like every other family. But I don't look at another family and say, I used to be like, okay, I'm taking a family photo and they are not smiling. We had one year where the older kids wanted to do like ugly jackets from the 80s.
Oh, wait a
And
minute. Ugly jacket in the 80s?
they,
Pretty
they,
personal in 81. What would be an ugly jacket?
oh my God, they went to Goodwill and they got these hilarious jackets. And the two younger ones like they did not want to wear them. And so basically the family photo is the three older kids smiling. Our son Ari was kind of like, hmm. And the younger two were just like angry. And I was like, okay, that's the photo that's going out because that's what you chose to do. I mean, this is life, right? Life is not perfect.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. So Gracie says you have 6 children. Wow, super mom. Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Clearly. Life isn't perfect, you're right. And you know what? It just creates memories. You remember the moment even more so when
Oh
everyone's
yeah.
like, ah. You know,
Yeah.
in my video where that I played before this show, there's a picture of my parents and me and my grandson who's 5, and he doesn't look too happy in that picture. I remember that day. He didn't want to sit for a picture, but it was
It's a
still.
great video, by the way. I was going to say that when we first started. I was like, ooh, that is a great intro video.
I love it
Yeah.
because it highlights several of my past guests and the main points, you know, when you see a picture of a guest and the point, that's the point that guest made, you know, during their
Yeah.
episode. And I love it. And I have an outfit
Yeah.
that I'll play too.
Yeah.
But,
I think it's great. But yeah, I mean, one year I love funny holiday photos, but one year I made them, literally made them wear onesies. And so like one was wearing Eeyore, one was wearing Pooh, another one was wearing a giraffe. And the photo actually turned out really good and it was really funny. And they were like, "You are the worst." And I was like, "Oh, but I love it. I love it." So, you know.
Gracie Ruth says we have a family picture where we look like the Adams family. Yeah, so I think everyone can relate, and that's the whole thing about Simone. You love telling stories, and people can relate to those stories. And is that, you know? So tell us a little bit about your book. I know I asked that, and then we get off on something else.
Yeah, sorry. I
No,
tend to
I get off
go
on.
left, you say right, and yeah. Um,
I do too. Tell us
yeah.
about your book. Yeah.
So it really is all about realizing what you're capable of and recognizing that the things you do every day matter. Like you don't have to be the big philanthropist. You have to be you. You have to realize that voice every day when you wake up in the morning. Like you can choose to be miserable, you can choose to be happy, no matter what your circumstances are, right? Just like we talked about before, and how you interact with other people. So there's stories about the kids' adoptions and stories, obviously, about Kilimanjaro, life in general. I'm also Jewish, so some of my Jewish values, which again, it's not about religion. It's about that we're all I have a t-shirt that says, "Humankind, be both." Humankind,
Yeah, love
right?
that.
So, I think respecting every person that you interact with for who they are, they're not their title. That's another thing. I think that, and I'll tell an offshoot again. I'm going left again. My husband is not a fan of customer service calls, or at least he wasn't, because he was like, it's so stressful and I'm like frustrated. And I was like, well, start with remembering that there's a person on the other end and their name isn't customer service. They're actually a human and they're actually there to help you, right? I mean, they're not
Yeah.
there to like shut you
Mm,
down, maybe sometimes, but I think in
right.
general, they're there to help you. And I said, because he'll listen to me talk and he's like, oh, I don't know how you do it. And so he had to make a call. And I said, I'm not doing this one, my friend. You got it. And he said to me, well, guess what? I pulled a Simone. And I was like, I'm not sure what that means. Do I want to know?" He was like, I asked the person about their life. I asked the person about their day. I was actually really interested. I had a great conversation with them. And then we got to the customer service part. And guess what? They were able to fix it. And it worked. Like, understanding that they're not customer service. Like, her name is Helen. And like, take that into account. And it really makes a big difference because, again, we're all just trying to do our best. Life is really complicated right now, right? So, like, I think when we look at other people with respect and compassion, then it really will make a big difference in your day.
I love that. I love that because you helped your husband realize that. Who knows who he'll help realize it, and it all trickles out. Sometimes we think, "Oh, I've got to make a huge difference," and just make a difference with where you are. Like the guy in Ukraine that I interviewed yesterday, he's making a difference by delivering stuff to the bunkers underground. He's not taking up guns. He doesn't feel qualified to do that, but he's making a difference where he is. He doesn't have a ton of money, but he's doing what he can with what he has and spreading kindness. And you're doing that by telling your stories and helping other people realize they're not alone. It's awesome. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to tell your story in front of 2 million people or 500,000 people. If it hits one person, you make
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah. And, it's just the same thing with every little thing we do during the day. You have a choice on how do I used to walk with my head down, going from point A to point B, not understanding that the value is in the journey from point A to point B and meeting the people. And now, of course, you know, they, beyond laughing at me for talking to myself in the mirror, they laugh at me when I travel because, and of course we haven't gone anywhere for a bit, but because I start conversations with whether I'm sitting at the bar or next to someone on the plane, I I start a conversation because I think that you can learn something from everyone you meet. And I've learned amazing things and have had amazing conversations with strangers that have truly impacted my life.
Yeah.
So never take that for granted.
Okay, well, let's see if this is going to work on this comment. Next time I get involved with an angry pit bull, I'm going to pull a Simone.
Yeah, it might work actually. I mean, in addition to 6 children, I have 4 dogs. I don't have any pit bulls, but I do have 4 dogs. So I do think that kindness and compassion with animals works as well. I have very sweet dogs who, they just love
Yeah, so
everyone.
try it out, Senor, and then come back and tell us how it works.
Yes, let us know.
We want to know. Oh boy. So, what do you mean by why did you pick that title, Extraordinary
Ah,
Unordinary You?
yeah, again, because I think that I think that a lot of us feel like we're just ordinary, like we don't make a difference in the world. And the choices that we make don't impact anyone. And I completely disagree. I think that we are all unique, we are all unordinary, and we all have extraordinary things that we do in our lives. And we just need to realize it. We need to take a look in that mirror and say, wait, you know what? Let me look at what I did today. And whatever your job is, whatever your family life is, you impacted someone's life today. But you need to take a step back and look at that.
Yeah. And how did you impact it? Because we could impact someone's life negatively or positively,
Right. Because you have a choice. You have a choice in how you want to move forward on your journey.
And that comes with being aware and noticing. Sometimes we can just go through life so busy that we're not even noticing, how we're impacting people or how we're reacting to life or whatever. So
Yeah.
great points. So this is how people can order your book, right? This is the link, and it's on
Yes.
Amazon. This
It's
is
on
like a
Amazon. Yeah.
short link for Amazon. It's on Amazon. And this is your website, SimoneKnego.com. So people can take a look there. What are the kinds of things that you offer on your website? You want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, I have a new blog post every week, so I keep up and write a new article every week. Usually, it just depends. Sometimes it's about what's happening in the world. Sometimes it's about something that happened in my life. But I really try to I do stick to once a week that I write an article. I also, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, there you can download 30 days of positive affirmations. Again, I really think they work. 10 years ago, I would have said, "Psh, not me. I would never do
Yeah.
that." But I really do think they make a difference in my life. So you can do that. And so my newsletter every month I send out, it has a different article and things that are happening, things that I'm really thankful for that I've experienced or that I want to share with my readers.
Yeah, gratefulness
Yeah.
is something good to
Yeah.
practice. Yeah. Okay, and then you have a Facebook site.
Yep. Facebook and Instagram. I also post almost every day something on there. It's a lot of work. It's like keeping up with all of this and then I love when I get the feedback from the kids. "Oh, I loved your post today," or, you know, "Mom, really? That was your post today?" I'm like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. I'll take that into consideration for the next one."
Gracie says, "What exactly is a Simone?" I think what he means is he's going to be nice and ask the pit bull, be nice to the pit bull, treat him with kindness, and maybe that will, have the pit bull not attack him.
Yeah, and
Or
understanding
not.
that, that you're interacting with another person, that other person has feelings, that other person has we have no idea what anybody else is going through in their lives. So really, reaching out with kindness, I think makes a big difference. And again, there's no unicorns and rainbows. It doesn't work that way. We all have struggles. And especially now, we all have a lot of struggles. But understanding that, I think it makes us move forward with a different appreciation for other people.
I remember when I went to the Naval Academy, and I used to sit in my classroom, and it overlooked a really nice river with these big homes on the Severn River with these big homes. And I used to sit there and think, those people just have perfect lives. They have it all together. My life sucks here at the Naval Academy. And in reality, you can't tell just because they had a big house on the river if they had a perfect life or not, and what is a perfect life. But you can't tell if they were happy, whatever. You can't judge by that, right?
Yeah. And you never know what's happening inside, the walls of someone's house. So, I think we again looking at social media and we see these beautiful photos of this beautiful moment in time and we need to remind ourselves that that was a moment in time and not looking at anybody else and saying I want to be that. Look at yourself and say I want to be me and how can I be happy by being me?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I just love it. I love everything that you said. What is next for you? Like, how old
Mm.
is your youngest child?
Youngest is 14, so she's
14.
in 8th grade, so we still have high school to go through, and you know what? I'm kind of, like, cherishing these days now because I'm thinking I keep joking that I'm a 50% empty nester, but I'm a 50% empty nester, which means that in 4 years, they're all gonna be gone, and I say to my husband, "And then we're gonna have to talk to each other all of the time."
No.
Yeah. I mean, we've been married for 29 years, like, we're used to it, but, it's funny. It's so great, like, my daughter's home this week for her spring break and she brought 4 of her friends with her and it was like so nice to have them here. So I'm kind of just embracing all those moments. And what's next for me? I have some cool things going on, but I think the most exciting thing is that April 3rd, I'm going to be at UC Santa Barbara. I'm doing a TEDx about the importance of talking to our children at a young age about racial bias. And so that one I'm really excited for.
You gotta definitely send me that link,
Yeah.
so that when I publish this episode, I'll put the link in there and, tag me when you post about it. I'll share it because I
Thank
really
you.
yeah, I'd love to do that. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, that's great. So let's see. I think this might be Kelly, a friend of mine. She says, I own retail stores. I tell my employees all the time, smile and treat everyone with kindness. You never
Mm,
know what they're going
yeah.
through. And then we have
It's so
Chris.
true.
Oh, Emily, I was in that house across the way. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, going back to what you said about like, I wish oh, look at those houses. I wish I had that life. And those aren't the things that make you happy, not at all. And, we can look at people and say, oh my gosh, they have so much money. And then you're sitting inside their house and you're thinking, like, the husband and wife don't even talk to each other. So, looking at that, I think we have to look at things differently. And that's what I've realized is that I need to be happy with myself. I don't need to look at anybody else. And yes, social media is still there. I look at it and say, oh, she looks great in that dress. What a beautiful dress. Instead of saying like, I wish I could fit into that dress. I don't do that anymore. I used to. I don't do that anymore. And that's what I'm trying to teach my kids is that that's not what social media is for. It's not about looking at it and saying, I wish I could be them. I wish I should have done that. I could have done that. No, it's not that.
Yeah. And we can actually think about, you can fast forward to the day when, you're older and wiser. What would your older and wiser self say to you right now? Social media likes, isn't what matters. It's not, be yourself, be the extraordinary, unordinary you, live life that way and go out and climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Go live your life, not somebody else's.
Yeah. Another thing that I really like to say is I'd have people say to me, "Oh, you climbed Kilimanjaro. I could never do that. I can't do that. Yeah. Oh." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Would you want to?" They're like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, then change your words.
Yeah,
Don't say that you can't do something. Ask yourself if you want to, because can't means won't. I mean, from the beginning, can't means what. If you say I can't do it, you're never going to do it. But
right.
ask yourself if you want to do something. That's the most important thing. When you make decisions in your life, is this what you want? If it's not what you want, then, you know, start thinking about it a little bit more.
And I would say too, when you ask yourself, what do I want? Pay attention to both what your mind says and also what your body says.
Mm,
Because, or your heart, because it might be, yeah, I should, your mind might be like, yeah, you really should want that because you really should want to be an accountant because they make a lot of money. That's what you should do, and then your body's like, I don't know if I really want to do that. So you got to pay attention to both, right?
yeah. Yeah, completely. And for me, the accountant part was, after I failed organic chemistry, was really my dad saying to me, "Well, you're good at math. This is what you should do."
Hmm.
Well, I don't.
And you're young, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll do that. And yeah, I mean, there's things that we think that we should be doing. You're right. Like, okay, I want to make more money. I want to do this, but is it going to make you happy? That is part of the equation. Is that what is happiness to you? And
Right.
people will say to me, "Do you feel successful?" I'm like, "I feel successful because I'm happy." That to me is the
Yes.
definition of
That's
success.
great. I really love, so I know we got to wrap this up. I'll just tell one story. So my son, is going to college to first he started off as studying electrical engineering and he's just finishing up his AA, but he started off going to electrical engineering and he even admitted to me, my ego was looking at, which ones will make the most
Yeah.
money. Then he realized that he'd have to go out of state to get that degree based on where he lived. So he switched it to materials engineering. I guess that's my computer. I thought I had silenced it. But anyway, and now
That's
he's
okay.
saying, I don't know if I want to go past these 2 years. I really want to spend time with my, wife and son. And so I said, William, you've got a mother who coaches people on create a life you love living now. Let's talk. I'm not going to push you to go get your degree. And in fact, right now, he's really interested in growing trees and plants. He's always been interested in being outside. So he's starting to question whether or not he wants to be an engineer, which is perfectly fine, right? Not the
Yeah.
end of the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know what we want to do. I mean, right, it took me 40 something years to get there. And I can't look at my kids and say, "You need to do this now." And I look at my kids that are, my son that it has a job, like, will he stay? I mean, he's actually a materials engineer, and will he, and he has a master's in it, but is that going to be what he does his whole life? I have no idea. My daughter, who's graduating college in May, she's going to take a gap year and figure it out, because it's been a hard couple of years. Like, what does she want? I don't think she knows yet. And to push these expectations on them when I didn't have any clue for 40 something years, it
Yeah.
is not right.
Yeah.
So we got to be happy. We got to figure out how we want to move forward and make a difference in our world.
I love this interview, Simone. I'm so glad that we were able to get you on this show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We had so many people commenting and everything. I really appreciate it when you guys show up. I want you to know that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Onward Live is sponsored by Emily Harmon Coaching and Consulting. Visit my website, emilyharmon.com, to learn more about me and my coaching programs. I'd love to help you create a life you love living. Remember, every adversity is our own personal university. Sometimes the lessons are difficult, and we must learn from our experiences. Vulnerability is your superpower. You are lovable and worthy. And we discuss these topics and more because professional is personal. Thank you for joining us and engaging with me and my guest. I look forward to seeing you next.